And we back with another episode. Y'all know who we
We
are.
back.
I'm
We
I'm,
back.
I'm tired of telling y'all who we is. Y'all know who we are. That's the amazing beauty. I'm not even gonna say my name. I'm just gonna get straight
Facts.
to the conversation. I got this argument that's been brewing up, all right? And this argument has been something that literally has probably been constant for about a week and a half. Didi, I want to know your thoughts towards it. Viewers, listeners, I want to know your thoughts towards it. Now, I was a Disney kid, a little bit, so. We had bootleg cable, so it came and went. Bootleg means that you did not pay for it. For people who don't know what bootleg cable mean, and so the question is, who was the best singer slash vocalist to come out of Disney? Now, this is what I mean. They originated in Disney, whether it's a Disney movie or a Disney channel, they originated there. So let me tell you some people who you cannot choose. So you can't choose I love a Tevin Campbell, right? Like, I love Tevin Campbell. Can we talk? All of that. I love a Tevin Campbell, but he did not originate in Disney. He had songs before that and then did stuff with Disney. Who is the best vocalist, in your opinion, Didi, to come from Disney?
First of all, there's like so many different eras.
Right?
So I know there's like a formula for a minute where if you could sing, dance, act, you had to get a Disney audition and then your career was just gonna go through the roof. There was a time, and I think it's still going, but not like it was.
Okay.
But I'm taking it all the way back. In my opinion, a young Jason Weaver.
Okay.
Jason Weaver is first of all, Google him. He was the singing voice of Simba in Lion King that came
Uh-huh.
out in 1994. He was a singing voice. He went on to do, I think in that same year, to be a young Michael Jackson in the made for TV classic The American Dream, the
Okay.
story of the Jacksons. Classic um TV special. But yeah, so he sang, he was the singing voice, not the acting voice. That
Right.
was Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home
Right.
Improvement, former heartthrob of the 90s. So Jason Weaver, he was the singing Simba in the first ever Lion King. And then he went on to do great things in TV and movies and his own music career.
Yes.
He has some hits.
Well, if you ain't gonna go with me, I'm only
Well, he had his own though. Before he was a featured hook singer, he had a few little bops.
okay.
He was also on The Smart Guy. He's been in
Yes.
several movies, still acting to this day. Very talented young man. And this is my last thing I'll say about him. When he got the Lion King gig, story goes that they offered him like two. Let me get this right. I don't know the figure, but they offered him a figure to do it. His
Right.
mom said, "No, we'll take the residuals." Little did we know, The Lion King is one of the biggest Disney hits ever.
Mm-hmm.
That man is still getting paid in his 40s, maybe 50, I don't know,
Yeah, he up there.
because of his singing in. Let's not forget the soundtrack sold separately from the movie,
Yeah, facts.
and it
Facts.
still gets airplay. But yeah, Jason
I
Weaver's
love
my
it.
answer.
Jason Weaver is good. I didn't think he was gonna go there. I'm even going a little bit further. People gonna argue and not think that this person originated there. But the first time he was on our TV screens, a young Justin Timberlake was on the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse way before NSYNC. I'm talking about, it had Ryan Gosling on that mug, Justin Timberlake, JC Chavez, Britney Spears, Christina Aguilera, Brittany Murphy, all of these kids, right? Like
Hmm.
real kids. But what that man can do, that man can sing so well. I don't know the history on this. I don't know the technical or the numbers, but He's one of the few Caucasian males to win a BET award. Um, let's call it what it is. BET Awards. Let's go. But like, man, his vocal range, the fact that he can get up there, and the fact that he can still get up there in, um, man, God, he got to be 44,
Yeah,
40.
he not 50 yet, but he in there.
Yeah, he like 44, 45. Got to be.
Yeah,
But man, young Justin Timberlake, man, that vocal is crazy.
that's
Now,
fair.
I've had conversations with people, and of course, they got people who are younger. So they got the Demi Lovato's up there, the Selena Gomez's, people who went to
Nah.
have full blown the Ariana. Well, Ariana Grande was Nickelodeon, but they got the young cats, on their list and stuff like that. But I'm like, man, I don't know if you can.
But you said vocalist,
I said vocalist. Yeah, I'm
not
so
just somebody that got songs. You
it
said
means
vocalist.
range.
It
I'm
just
talking
means can
about
you sing, not can you
dang,
sell. Can you
dang.
sing?
Yes. And so I'm
Mm,
hanging my hat on that JT, Justin Timberlake, a young Justin Timberlake,
that's
man.
fair.
And
That's
so
fair. Some would say JC is a better vocalist, but that's fair.
I'm okay with that. And you know what? I would entertain that argument. I would entertain that argument. I would entertain it. It's something
Man,
I believe in. I'm okay. I'm okay with that argument right there. And it's only because I would say, as far as range, Justin Timberlake, I would say that. As far as like that soulful strongness, JC got it going on.
so when you say range, you just mean can they hit a high note? What you mean
I
by
mean, they can go
range?
high, they can go low, and still make it sounds like okay. So I sing every week, all the time, and then you'll realize, depending on the different varieties of songs that you can, maybe you're comfortable with a high note here or there, but I have realized, even as a adult male, there are some low notes that I'm like, bro, I can't do this mug justice. I'm in this mug, like I can't do it. I can't do what y'all got going on down there. And so you just got another respect for that in general. But in terms of full range, like, can you get I think JT is more of the tenor, alto, soprano sometimes even.
I
But
think he has a high voice. Yeah.
JC can get down there, and not many people can. I cannot. I am not on that list. So hats off to
Fair.
you. Hats off to you. But we're gonna get more into the topic today. DD, let us know what that topic is. Hot and ready. What we got?
I think today, it's a big word and it gets said a lot, but I really want to just start the conversation on identity and what that actually means, because there's been a lot of conversations about the reasons why people do this or do that, and it always kind of goes back to childhood. And because childhood, that's your formative years, that's where you kind of learn and kind of get definitions for things,
Mm-hmm.
including definition of yourself. And so as we grow older, there are decisions and things that we make, or there are decisions that have been made for us, and we
Yeah.
kind of have to figure out, okay, who am I in this, or who have I am I who I thought I was, for a variety of reasons. So we want to talk about identity a little bit today. And of course, i don't um I don't have the answers, but I do think it's a good discussion and a conversation to kind of open up.
Yeah, I think that's something near and dear to where I am, because let me start this off by saying that I am, and I'll be the first person to raise my hand to say, at one point in time in my life, did I struggle with identity? The answer is definitely yes. And people always, I think, start the conversation at a current day, or even for people in my life, they see some type of confidence that I display, or that I know who I am. Well, this came from a whole shuffle of not knowing who I am, and looking for places to get validation from. And I'll rewind from that. Um, I grew up, and my relationship with my father was, um, Man, broken would be a nice word to say about it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was messed up. I remember having somewhat of a relationship with him when I was in the single digits. I think at 8 years old, um, it hit a turning point and officially dissipated.
Mm-hmm.
After that, the relationship was toxic at best. Um, and so, with that happening, deciding on A, when he wants to be present or not, B, when he wants to be sober or not, um, it turned into an absence. It turned into an absence. And so, meanwhile, as a young man, no matter if you have daddy issues, if you will, or if you were, or if you had a dad in the home with you, there's a certain part of you for sure that seeks that validation. And so for me, I found my validation. Well, growing up in my teenage years, I would definitely say I found that validation in women.
Mm-hmm.
That's just all of what it is. Like you find validation in women. Hey, if I um, play a sport and get validation from my peers, but do the girls like me too? If they paying attention, if they looking at me, if they know my name, if they smiling a little bit like that. That is where, when I say validation, I mean that increased. That is the things that increased self worth. Because I was valuable to people. I was sought after by people. And so keep searching and searching and searching for that validation. Like literally let that fuel every single thing that I did. There's a large portion of, hey, I want to go out there and have a good game, not because I want to win, because I want to be cute. I want to be looked at. I want to be sought after. I
Mm-hmm.
want to be that guy. It's the ego thing, seeking validation, validation, validation. Growing up, and I'll just let you guys know a bit of my testimony is that um, in my teenage years, I was not even more than 50%. If we had a gauge, I would say it was at best 38% pursuing the life of Christ. Everything else was, what did my peers say? What did the people who I looked up to say that success was? Well, what they said was success was how many bodies you can catch in terms of how many women you've been with.
Mm-hmm.
What they said was these frivolous things, jewelry, diamonds. I mean, grills was a thing when I was, in high school. Like that was the idea of success: money, cars. What can you splurge on or whatever? Even like. To the point of, I mean, weed wasn't as prevalent as it is today, but even like, hey, you smoke? Oh, you don't smoke? You square? Like all of that
Yeah.
stuff was the definition of success in the place that I came from, which is, I mean, I'm not going to, that definition of the hood, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
based there, from there. And so all of that hood mentality terms of success was stuff that I sought after. These are the things that I wanted. And that is where I got my validation, depending on how much I had of that.
Mm-hmm.
It took me a while. It took me a while to wise up to say, something just don't feel right. Something just don't feel right in the terms of I'm getting these things and they're validating me and I'm feeling okay at first, but then I'm just empty right after again. And I'm empty right after again. And I'm empty right after again. On a frivolous, and I say all that to say, my identity was found in useless validation. Very much so. So if you talk to anybody, that knew me at that point in time of life, if they said something bad about me, hey, believe it, believe it, because it was all about that validation and not having somebody. And the reason why I bring up the father thing is because ideally, this is what I gathered through life. It's not because I've been taught it, because I acquired this information. Whether it looks like biblical manhood, biblical idea of being a father, or what the family dichotomy should be, is that young men is supposed to look up to the father and say, "Hey, in a perfect world, this is
Mm-hmm.
what it looks like to be a man. This is what it looks like to have values, to have these morals, to know what to prioritize. This is what that looks like. I didn't have that, so I had to go find that. Now, I don't know if anybody's batting 100% with what they go to find. I definitely was not. And so my identity shifted. I had to get to a point where it's like I had to understand and it took years to get this. I had to understand that the idea that I thought was success was not success. Changed my entire identity. My idea of validation, things that made me whole, was not really validation. It was a distraction to keep me from the real problems. Um, the reason why I say that is that I don't think people acknowledge, in terms of identity, acknowledge the road that it takes to get there. For anybody whom, and this is just the way I see it, anybody who I can see today and I say, oh, that person know who they are.
Mm-hmm.
They had to go on a journey to get there. It just wasn't given to them. Even if you told me, hey, Ren, this is who you are, I'm like, I'm from the show me state. I gotta figure some things out. I can't just take your word, bro. Like I can't. And so I think that is definitely missed in identity in terms of who you are and why you are. And I'm not even going to get into the facts of the struggle with manhood, but would you say, let me throw that back at you, Didi. Would you say that when people ask you, because you are a person who I will look at and say, you know who you are. You know who you are right now. But would you say that there's a journey to get so? And if so, how do you, knowing who you are now, acknowledge that journey?
I would say as of today, in the year of our Lord 2023, I can acknowledge that I know who I am. But I say that because I'll say it like this. Knowing who you are is not a final destination. And I say that because sometimes, so I study psychology, and in development, I go back to childhood. We human beings need to have a definition of things in order to make sense of the world. So for example, when you're little and you start identifying animals, maybe you have a book and it just says dog, cat, cow. Now, if you figure out, okay, in my mind, a dog is an animal that walks on all fours and has a tail, has some kind of snout, nose, whiskers, whatever. That's how I define a dog. But let's say I get my first trip to the zoo, and every time I go by the big cats, I see a tiger, but in my mind, because I've never seen a tiger, I only know that if it has four legs and a tail and a snout, it's a dog. So as a kid, what I say is, look, an orange dog, because I'm trying to make sense of my world and my limited knowledge. So this yearning to find definition is, I think, what human beings are going to do till the day we die, because when we find something that we can hold on to an anchor, it's like, one less thing I got to figure out, right? And I think identity is the same way. I think when you know who you are, it doesn't mean that you stop there and I take a picture, frame it, put it on the wall, boom, there go my identity. So nobody got to ask me no more, and I don't have to ask myself no more. That's who I am. Done with that. No, I think once you figure out who you are, it informs how you live the rest of your life. Because now there are certain things and decisions that I make. I make them because they go along with who I am and who I know myself to be. So there are certain things I'm not going to do. There's certain things I'm not going to say. There's certain things I'm not going to accept. So the journey would be, it was kind of the flip of that. I started to realize there are certain things that I can't accept, whether it's how I'm treated, whether it's how I'm talked to, or even whether it's how I treat myself. I had to learn how to, wait a minute. It's okay to be considerate of others, but why am I not considerate of me? Don't I matter in the equation? Doesn't it matter that I am kind to myself?
Yeah.
So it's definitely been a journey, whether it comes from decisions that were made for me as a child, things, or the way I may have come into the world just off jump, whether it's where I grew up, how I grew up, what I heard when I grew up, how people respond to me or don't, how people speak to me or don't, how people hug me or don't. All
Yeah.
of those things, they inform identity. But my question is, who is actually responsible for informing a human being of who they are? Because
Oh,
I think when you reflect back on how you were raised and the environment you were raised in, I think it's important to know who was supposed to tell me that. So you brought up your father, but you also had a mother,
yeah.
right?
Facts.
So who then do we can we tell someone who's struggling with identity and they're like, well, how am I supposed to know where to start? Who would you say is responsible, if anybody, to define some things for a person?
Yeah, I would say I ascribe I subscribe, sorry, to the thought process of I think it's impossible for one person to raise another person.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And this is why I say this is because let's say I had a child
Mm-hmm.
and it's just me and him.
Mm-hmm.
Even though you would think, oh, a father, sends imparts knowledge to a son. Yeah, that very much so may be true. But if you think that I'm the only person that he learning from,
Right.
you out of your mind. I do subscribe to the thought process of it takes a community, it takes a village to raise a child, and so the hard part is um, if you don't, and we spoke about this before, if you do not teach a child about a specific area or something that they should know, it'll be totally ignorant on your behalf to think that they're not going to go get that information from elsewhere.
Right.
It's ignorant.
Yeah.
If you don't tell them, they're going to go find out. Like I literally have a computer
Mm-hmm.
that walks in my pocket all day. And if I'm being very honest, the ages is getting younger and younger and younger of how many people got computers in a dang on pocket walking to and fro. And so they're going to find out information. And so I would say the community is responsible, but at the same time, a parent's job is to do the best thing that they can, in my opinion, to cultivate that community.
Mm-hmm.
And what I mean by cultivate that community is maybe you can't pick and choose who exactly is in their ear all the time, but you can make sure that doofus down the street ain't by my son. Like,
Yeah.
nah, hey, fam, I appreciate what you got going on and whatever, but me and mine, nah,
Yeah.
don't even be around us, fam. Don't
Yeah.
even be around us. And so it is, and I would say, and maybe that's too simple. Y'all can let me know. Maybe that's too simple to say that it's a parent's job to try to cultivate who that community is, but it's the community's job to kind of raise that child up, seeing it from different areas. Now, in a perfect world, of course, you got two parents in the home. You're getting your primary, I would say, your primaries from mom and dad, because and it's a balance to things. Some certain things mom can teach you that dad could never even try to start, and then vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that's the reason why it's the balance. Like it's certain
Yeah.
things that I can't teach you, son. Like I can't. Like I don't have the touch that your mom do. Um, but at the same time, understanding that there is an outside world and that child is going to find out how they exist in that outside world. They're always going to
But
see things said.
no, go ahead.
They're just going to see it separate at first. They're going to see it separate. This is the way we do it at home, and then this is the way we do it in the outside world. Until they find out, I feel like who they are and know that identity at least a little bit, they can understand that those lives, those worlds shouldn't be so separate. Like
Mm-hmm.
who I'm at home should be the person who I'm out and about as. But I know as a kid, I can remember, okay, this is, we label things. Oh, these are my church friends. These are my school friends. Oh, this is my home friends. This is my like we label things and we put them in categories. And then as you get older, hopefully maturity will take you to the point of, nah, man, this is all one life. What's up, guys? This is Ren from the Set Apart Podcast. Did you know you can interact with us and continue the conversation via our online forum? That's right. You can email us today at setapartpodcastteam@gmail.com, because this is not just a podcast. This is a movement. We're looking forward to hearing from you.
Yeah, and I think too, I don't think that they're separate. And the reason I say that is because I believe parenting is a calling and should be viewed like that, because you have like the most moldable clay at home with your kids. If you're blessed enough to have them from day one, and for whatever reason aren't separate from them, I think it's such a huge responsibility, and it's really a gift from God to be like, wow, he trusts me to inform his child.
Yeah.
Because I don't think identity is how you act. I just want to make that clear. Identity is not how you act. It's not how you respond. It informs how you do those things, but identity is, who am I? Like the way that, it's no secret, I talk about it all the time. I'm a parent of a young man, and I don't know everything because he's the only one I've ever had. But I do my best to try to make sure that I'm not trying to make him into who I want him to be. Because if I do that, then I'm trying to prevent life from touching him, because I love him so much. I want him to be safe. I don't want his feelings to be hurt. I don't want his heart to be broken by some little heifer.
Floozy.
I don't want. Yeah, I almost said another word, but I had to say heifer instead. I have a very attractive, smart young son, and these little elementary school girls, they minds a little faster than the boys. So I'll be checking them, at the drop-off line, but I digress. But what I'm saying is, if I had it my way, if I wasn't seeking God on how to do this job, I would try to do all these things to prevent him from being hurt, to prevent him from struggle,
right?
To try to help him avoid downfalls. But that's not real life, right? So when I think about identity, it's not so much you better act like this when you go out there. You better watch for this. I think that his identity will help him know those things.
Yeah.
But who is he? Who have you been created to be that I get a chance to watch develop? Yeah. So when you talk about the word cultivate, it's so important. Cultivating is not just building relationships. Cultivating is snipping some relationships and adding some more. Yes. Cultivating is digging up some connections or reconnecting some that got severed immaturely or were out of season or whatever the case might be. And it does not mean, when you say a village, it also doesn't mean that that's a lot of people.
Yes, it does not. Nope.
Not the village, not the block. Your village can be, 5, sometimes 3 or less in my situation. But I think if those people are on the same page and understanding, like, no, this human being that I was blessed enough to carry into the world does not belong to me. So I have to view it like my calling is to make sure that whatever God decided this young man's going to be, I just have to, course correct every now and then. He going to be who he is. I don't get to decide that. And I think sometimes we have a lack of a parent's involvement in that, or the overbearing part of that, where, why you like that? Why don't you try this? Why you into that? That's weird. Why don't you try this? Or my favorite, Black people don't do that. Why you like that? Why you like to hike? Black people don't hike. Let me tell you a side note. Black people hike, camp, fish,
ski. They do it all. They do it all.
And do it well. So I say all that to say, identity is not what you do, it's not how you perform, it's not what you acquire, it's not where you work, it's not your credit score, but it's who you are. And what and I know that's hard to define, and that's why I'm having the conversation, because sometimes, like, you kind of painted the picture of growing up and I'm gonna do this because I want this response, I'm gonna do this because I get this attention, or this the only time somebody say my name is when I do this well.
Yeah.
And I call that the lack of grounding, meaning there's nothing keeping you firmly planted. There's nothing, because you floating around like, maybe it's this, maybe if I get this degree, maybe if I study law, then every time I come home for Thanksgiving, I'm gonna be the top of conversation because I'm studying law, not sociology.
Right.
Or it's my appearance. Oh, if my hair ain't down my back, I gotta go get some hair down my back, because then I get a few more looks at the grocery store.
Right.
Or who I'm connected to. And if I get in real tight with the pastor, then they gonna be like, oh, she must be so and so.
Right.
Or if I get in with the CEO, he gonna start inviting me to lunch, and people gonna think I'm this or that, or whatever the case might be. Let me get in there. Let me get in this room. That's not who you are. That's just performance. That's what you do. That's how you act. That's how you show up. But when you know who you are, it don't matter. None of those things going to change who you are, because you're grounded and anchored in that. So for me, I know that it used to be when somebody says, who are you? They start saying what they do. I'm a football player.
Right.
That's not who you are. That's what you be doing. You know what I'm saying? And a title is not your identity either. That's just a label so people can define and make sense of who you are in their world.
I'm glad you said that.
And I'm only going to, yeah. And the reason I'm bringing that up, because you can say, I'm his daddy. That's just your label, though.
Yeah.
You can sign a permission slip where it says parent signature. That don't mean you at home parenting this child, though.
X.
That's a label. That's not really who you are, because you kind of don't like the fact that you're a parent. You kind of resent the fact that you're a parent.
Yeah.
Because your identity is somewhere outside the house. Because you over there floating around trying to find out, but you feel like you're missing out. Or people say, oh, I lost myself. You didn't have yourself. You never had yourself. How can you lose you? You never had you, because you was trying to find identity in whatever stage you was at. You know what I'm saying? So if you say, oh, well, you can't say that because that's grandma. Well, she disrespectful. That's a title.
Yeah.
Her identity, she been mouthy her whole life and nobody checked her. So now she's 92 and she just mean.
Yep.
But that's your grandma, you know.
That's fact.
What they got to do with it? She wrong.
So I got a question for you in this. And so I would sit up here and let me call men out today, especially black men. I'm gonna call you out. Sometimes we can have this identity of we know who we are, we know what we bring to the table, we know what we don't bring to the table, and we can be very confident in who we are. Okay, then that role changes a little bit. Maybe you pick up another title, as you just said. I picked up a title now of husband. Now I'm a husband. All right. And so now you're being flooded for the first time ever of these things. Once again, always for guys, I know that this is a thing. Guys is always measuring themselves to the idea of what is success to me. What is success in that role to me? So what does it look like to be a successful husband? Now, a lot of times, and I'm not saying all the time, but this is the popular things. The popular things in being a successful husband is you're a rock. You're a solid emotional rock for your family. That's on most people's list.
But what does that mean? What does it mean you're a rock?
And so that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. When you say you're a rock, some people say it's emotional stability, meaning like when things are chaotic, you're the one that's not crying, or you're the one that's standing strong and not freaking out right now until you can get the chance to freak out. That's what it's been subscribed to. Now, another one says that idea of a husband, successful as a husband, is a provider.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying that's in every household, but you can, I mean, anybody can agree that that is a popular thing that subscribes to husbandhood.
Well, they talking about a certain kind of provider of a certain thing.
And so they mean provider of um, the stability of the household. We got a roof over
Money.
our head. We got money in our pockets. We ain't worried about no such and all this other stuff, right? Um, and so, and I'm only telling you this because I've seen this 100 times. And so now we have the rock, emotional
Mm-hmm.
stability. We have provider in terms of finances and a house, a roof over your head, food in your mouth. And then the last thing you have is when that husband is now elevated to what I call is graduated to now you're a husband and a father.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of times, I'm not saying once again in every dynamic, but in most dynamics, husband can be seen as disciplinary. You're the guy. You're the wait till your dad get home. You see 1,000 TV shows of that stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I say all of that to say to give context of this. I've seen men whom I'm like, man, yeah, you got a good idea as to who you are. Their titles start to change. Husband, father. And for lack of a better term, I don't even know what to call it right now. They lose themselves in those titles. And so, for example, I can tell you, man, I can sit up here if I wanted to do a DMX song where he was naming all those girls, Eshawn, T.
Mm-hmm.
Her mom,
Yeah.
Rasheed, names all of them. I can name 1,000 names right now, but I can tell you a lot of guys who they'll find themselves in their idea of what is success as a husband and a father, and that's providing, and therefore they have to work themselves dead to the bone in order to provide for that family. But guess what they're missing out on? The family, the literal
Mm-hmm.
family, because they're always just out and working and stuff like that. What is the goal to success for the daughter, the son, or whatever? Well, they want to go and they want to do college or high school sports or whatever. That costs money, more hours.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my wife, she deserves to be comfortable. Bigger house, more hours. It always equals you being gone more. And now, before you even notice it, years down the road, your presence was way more valuable than what you can do for us. But you don't
Yep.
get that until hindsight. Do you think that you see those type of stories as well? Because I can name 100. Do you see those type of stories as well? And B, would you say that women in general have that similar struggle with title versus identity?
I do see it, but my goal is to I hate that things are so common like that because it's not so much that I just wish men knew. First of all, I wish they didn't get their definition from other men who also aren't doing it well. And I say what I mean by that is if you are building a family with a woman, I really want you to talk to her because what you think is successful, she probably didn't even ask you for all that, but that's what you thought was successful. And what I mean to go even deeper is what makes you a successful husband is the fact that you are a husband. What
Mhm,
makes you a successful father is you being you, and that woman loves you for you being you. She wants to parent with you as you are. You don't
mhm,
have to go do some other thing other than what she already agreed to,
mhm,
seeing you as the father of her children. This is how women think. The same thing I've heard men say, "Oh, I would love for her to mother my kids." There's something you saw in her before she was a mother that said, I would trust her to raise my children.
mhm.
We do the same thing.
Okay.
We're not asking you to be extra than who you already are. If you silly, be silly. If you never been a disciplinarian in no other area of your life, what makes you think you're going to wake up one day and be a disciplinarian? That is not who you are.
Mhm.
Who told y'all If you're gonna be a successful husband, you gotta do A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Where did that come from? From the boys' locker room. That's what I call the man thought. The boys' locker room. Y'all not marrying each other, so why y'all consulting each other?
Yeah.
Talk to somebody that's been doing it successfully, and he'll tell you if you don't just ask your wife what she wants.
Yeah.
Because she's not your homeboy's wife. What works for them may not work for you because y'all have totally different personalities. So provider, that's why I said it depends on what you're providing. Okay. Because I guarantee you, people can say, okay, money is one of the biggest reasons why divorces happen. You got to be specific because it's not the lack of money is the reason. The reason is people have different definitions of the purpose of the money because what you just said, it's not the money. It's because he's always going to get the money. And she's saying, I'd rather have you.
Right.
So it's not really the money itself. It's arguing over the value of it. I got to go get more. You spending too much. Well, I just rather have you here.
Yeah.
So in my experience, I've never had a problem with provision of money. It was always, can you provide me an ear? Can you provide me of not trying to fix my problems or just let me vent. Just let me be a girl. Sometimes I just want to get it out. Provide that. Or provide cultivating. If you know who I am, pump me up. Tell me to keep going. Tell me when you see me switching up and trying to be somebody I'm not. Hey, you ain't even got to do all that. Right. I married you how you are. Your tastes and your preferences, you might evolve and all that. But don't, it depends on what you're providing. And I think men get frustrated because they think it has to be this way. And like you said, success means I'm a solid rock. I'm a foundation. If everything is chaotic, I'm stable. It ain't going to ever be unchaotic.
Right.
It's always going to be something.
It's also an excuse for guys. It's an excuse for guys not to acknowledge emotion in the presence. Like,
yeah, be present, because if you stressed out, first of all, I keep giving these inside nuggets because I feel like y'all are assuming that women want a certain thing because you listen to crazy women that don't know the Lord. That is not how women who love the Lord think. One of the most attractive things about a man is one who can worship the Lord. And I'm not even talking about singing. I just mean he don't give a who is looking. He gonna get his in with his Lord and Savior. There's a certain vulnerability that's it's like a magnet. You mean to tell me you have a heart for the same God I do? That's a whole nother level of intimacy that y'all be skipping out on because y'all trying to look hard during church. I'm sorry. Y'all tripping.
Right.
Emotional stability is not whether or not a tear come out your eye while you watching Glory or Training Day. That ain't it. That's why I'm saying when I talk about the boys' locker room, y'all got to stop thinking about what your homie think. You want to be with him? Then ask him what he think. If you want to be with us, you better talk to us because we ain't moved by that.
Right.
Vulnerability, being stable is not the opposite of vulnerability. It just means that I feel this, but we gonna ride this thing out and we gonna figure it out. That's stability, not like it doesn't bother me. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. How are you doing? I'm fine. What's wrong? Nothing. Yeah. That ain't it.
Yeah, it's a lie. Ain't it. And then it's a lie. Yeah.
And it's just gonna cause another argument. Because of our nature, we care about how you feel. And when you don't say it, you think that makes you weak. And it really just makes us frustrated. So all it's doing is thickening the wall between us. So you really are an unsuccessful husband while you call yourself trying to be successful.
Right.
So, man, that was for y'all. I'm just trying to let y'all know the way you've been thinking ain't it.
Right.
That's why we have so many podcasts of men versus women, because everybody want to be right or more right. You wrong, y'all do this, y'all do that. No, being solid does not mean the absence of emotion.
Yes.
It just means, in spite of how we feel, we're gonna keep moving, we're gonna keep growing, we're gonna keep building, even if we gotta cry doing it, even if we gotta crawl to the finish line, we going.
So is there some things that you would say a woman, when she becomes a wife or a mother,
Hmm.
would you be see some things that in general, in the general,
Yes, yes,
would you
that was the
say
other part
that
of your question. Yes,
they emphasize certain things that then make them start
yes,
tripping? Like, so for example, we emphasize I know a lot of guys emphasize the provider thing, but they end up doing
yes,
something that's counterproductive in order to accomplish this one feat. Would you
yeah,
say that women do that? And if so,
yes.
what is one of those things?
One of those things is, if I don't put my children first, I'm a failure and I'm selfish. Also known as mom guilt.
Hmm. Okay.
If I don't anything for my kids, if I don't eat, they gonna eat.
Hmm.
Now, there was a time where that was literally the only option, but we don't. Most of us don't live in that space anymore. But we saw our mothers do it, even though we don't have to. So we think that that's the way to go, regardless.
Right.
Um, if I don't have, if I got $20 and you know they need $19 for the field trip, they're gonna get it. And that's fine. Now the extreme of that is, I don't ever do anything for myself.
Yeah.
After they go to bed, I gotta clean the house from top to bottom. I gotta prepare the food for the rest of the week. I gotta pack lunches. I gotta wash clothes. I gotta iron clothes. I gotta do all of this. I gotta order this. And by the time I lay down, it's 3 a.m. And then I gotta get up at 6 and do it all the way over again. And then on the weekends, when I'm not at work, I gotta drive kids all over to this activity, that activity. And so in our minds, it's like, but we want to give them the world. But you're gonna be dead by the time they get the world.
Right.
So I had to learn, it's okay to still like the things I like. It's okay to still do the things I enjoy. It's okay to be like, hey, I'm going to a concert next week. The kid is saying, "Oh, I want to go." Well, you can't go to this one. So I have tried to build this kind of relationship with my son where I tell him, no, this is just for the ladies. This is for grown-ups. And now he's like used to me doing stuff without him because I just want to.
All right.
It's okay for me to um close my bedroom door for 2 hours. It's okay. Because that's what's teaching him is parents are humans, not just
Yeah.
parents. So when I have kids, if there's something that I don't like, I can say, don't do that. Or I can say, I don't like when you do that. And now he tells me, um, can I just eat alone tonight? And at first I was like, am I a terrible parent? Like, ain't you supposed to sit around the table and talk about your day? Isn't that a solid family structure?
Mm-hmm.
Not realizing that is a growing young man who lives with a mommy who's a girl who needs a little bit of space. Maybe them crazy girls at school was a lot
Mm-hmm.
that day. And he's like, I just want to sit at the table, just looking all stressed like a grown man. But if that's what he needed, I have to be okay with that and not think, oh, something's wrong with my parenting or I missed the mark somewhere. But I have felt like that until someone else had to say, yeah, just let him eat. Girl, you tripping. You know what I'm saying? So there's a balance, but I had to learn that. So definitely there's a mom guilt for sure. Because you
Mm.
think everything about you owe it to your children because you want to give them
Yeah.
the best. But then you have nothing left. And then that's when people say, oh, I lost my identity or I gave it up or I don't know who I am. And then their kids go to college and then they get divorced because there was nothing left after the kids left because you gave everything to them. And they
Mm-hmm.
took it.
Yeah. That's and it's so crazy how we can have something that our life can be, for lack of a better term, stable. And then one identity.
Posting.
Yeah, it's copacetic. Um, Everything is cool, and then like once again, you insert new title of whatever sort, and
Hmm.
now things are all of a sudden off balance. What would you say, and just to like send it home, like what would you say something that worked for you that helped you stay you through the changes? That sounds crazy. It's a crazy question. What helped you stay um, with your morals, with your direction, with your identity through the changes?
I had to, I don't want to say put myself first, but I had to value me and who I was first. You can't resist who you evolve into.
Hmm.
And I had to learn, you know how people say, oh, people always say, oh, you gotta love yourself first. And that sounded really cute, but that's a very difficult thing to do when you're always giving out, right?
Right.
You don't hate yourself, but you don't really give yourself a lot of attention. So I started realizing that if something doesn't suit who I am, it's okay to say no.
Right.
If someone doesn't suit who I am, it's okay to say no. If there's a tension because I'm trying to give something out, it's not sitting well with who I am, it's okay to not do it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean it's like uh something sinful, or it could just mean like I just don't that's just not who I am. I'm just not going to get into that. Um and then I have to be kind. Okay, so one example I can use, I'm trying to keep this short, is let's say you're in a job and it's not a terrible job and there are worse things to have, but you find that um they are going after numbers and you're a people person.
Yeah.
And because you grew up with a hardworking parent or two, and you always like, well, I'm better off than we used to be, or there are worse jobs, at least this job
Hmm.
is easy, but it's killing you. And then you can't even explain to other people why it's so hard to go to work every day because it's easier than other jobs
Hmm.
and it pays well and all these reasons. But it's depressing
Yeah.
because it's not who you are. And you don't get compensated for who you are. You get
Yeah.
compensated for what you do.
Facts.
So I had to come to realization after being on a certain job for almost 10 years, I don't fit. And why am I giving more time to someone else's business that doesn't value me? Shouldn't I be giving more time and attention in my waking hours and my love and affection and my ideas and my creativity to me? So sometimes you have to make hard decisions when it comes to taking care of yourself. So I say all that to say the thing that's helped me is knowing that as much as I love other people, I should love myself even that much more. And by loving, be kind to myself, make decisions that suit me. And it doesn't mean I'm taking away from someone else. But if I'm always the last one on the list, what does that say about me? What does
Right.
that say about how I feel about myself? Don't I matter in the equation? Why am I always last? So I think when you finally know who you are, you have to cater to that. You have to cultivate that. You have to remind yourself of that when things come
Hmm.
up, like you said, titles and positions.
Yeah.
But does that fit with who you are? Is it really an upgrade if it doesn't fit where you are? Is it really a promotion
Right.
if it's going against who you are? Um, yeah, that was a long answer, but it's a working definition, as they say.
Yeah, that's good. I think I was if I was to answer the same question of what keeps me what keeps my identity firm through it is knowing the difference between real change and circumstantial change. And what I mean by that is that I am a person who embraces change. Change gives you the opportunity to evolve, to grow, to step into areas and positions and titles and authority and service or whatever. Um, like you never have before. That's what change does. Change is things that are like, hey, from now forward, this is reality for you. Or is it circumstantial? Like, is it temporary? Is it just based on what's going on right now? Is it something that you really gotta be malleable for? So, for example, um, real change is certain the titles that we're talking about, being a husband, being a
Hmm.
father, and stuff like that. That's real change. Definitely will bend for that. The same single Ren is not the same person that's going to be a married Ren because I know that I want real change to happen in my life in order to compensate for the success of the relationship. That probably means um, whether it's something huge as if like, my living space, married couples usually live together. Maybe if it's something
Hmm.
huge for like your living space or it's something small, like, hey, maybe when you going to get Chick-fil-A, remember somebody else that live with you, like pick her up a meal or, something small like that. But, or is it circumstantial? Like, um, there's times and seasons in our lives that stress gets the best of me. Um, I can't then consider that stress to be a constant going forward. It's probably the storm coming through my workplace. It's probably a lot on my place, but I know that that's not all. That's not reality. That's not life
Yeah.
all the time for me. It's a season. So then for me to make drastic change on this 2 seconds of life,
Yeah.
well, how foolish would you be? Like how foolish would you be? And so knowing the difference between that, but also understand what is your and this is identity in a nutshell. Understand the things that you want to stand for and that you do stand for. Understand what your morals and this is what we call the non-negotiables. These are the things that until the day I die, I want to pride myself on. Being honest, have a morality, have a code, and sticking to that. And so, not saying that it won't change in the way that it's acted out, but no, I always want to be honest. I always want to be somebody of high character. I always want to be somebody who let your yeses be yeses and your nos be nos. Not saying that something can't happen to where you can't have one offs, but no, that's what I'm striving for. So, long story long, know the difference between change and circumstances.
Yeah.
And so
And at the
that's
end of the day, I think you can sum your identity up as, where do you land? Where do you, when it's all said and done, where do you land on, you could talk about morals, you could talk about integrity, you could talk about being a person of your word, but
Mhm.
where do you land on issues? Like, what is your, at when it's all said and done, if you're a husband, if you're a wife, if you're a mom, if you're a dad, if you're a bus driver, if you're whatever, all of those things, like you said, can change, but where do you land? At the end of the day, is somebody gonna say, well, nobody can come up to somebody that's close to you and say, well, Ren said this and this and that, and you be like, he ain't say that because I already know where he stand.
Yeah,
That sounds like you heard that, but I know that ain't him, because I know where he stands. He ain't gonna talk like that.
right.
And where do you exhale? Where do you say, okay, this where it's at? Finally found it on the major things. And then lastly, I'll just say, this might be just a lingering question, a cliffhanger, if you will. How do you know if you know who you are? So just something to think about. How do you know when you got there?
How do you know? That's a good one. That's some thought that needs to be put in that.
Yeah.
Let's drop it down. Let's drop that answer down in the comments or in the discussion forum. How do you phrase that one more time? How do you know you know? who you
How
are.
do you know? How do you know if you know who you are?
That's real.
How do you know that your identity is solid? How do you know? How do you know even what your identity is? Are you still searching and floating around and trying to figure it out? Or do you know that okay, I know who I am. I know where I'm going. Even if you don't know where you're going, I know who I am. I know what I will and won't do. I know how I care for myself. How do you know who you are?
Mm, that's real.
Did somebody tell you?
We gonna leave it on that because I don't even know how to explain. Like that takes some thought even for me. Like, huh? Okay. How do you know if you know who you are? I done
Yeah,
invested that. We've been the Set Apart podcast. Know who you are. Know your worth. Any sign
you
up for the?
stumped. You
I'm stumped.
your wheels is turning.
You
You
hit
like
me with you hit me with a dang. You hit me. I'm sign us off, Didi. My mind is fried. I don't know what you just did to me.
all right, y'all. It's been another installment of the Set Apart podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Please stay engaged with us. Keep checking for our new content, new episodes, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye, people. Hey, this is your girl Didi from Set Apart with Ren and Didi. Thank you so much for tuning in to this latest installment. Don't forget to subscribe to wherever you listen to podcasts.